Welcome to my channel. I'm Scott, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of valuing CRCL stock by analyzing their financial statements and dissecting their financial ratios so we can determine if it's a buy or a sell. Let's get started with the model. This is a large cap company, 26 billion market cap. They're trading at 108 a share, and they have 243 million shares outstanding. CRCL collects fiat money and exchanges it for USDC. USDC stands for US dollar coin. That's a stable coin that's backed by the US dollar. So you could think of USDC as a cryptocurrency, but much safer because it's backed by the dollar. Let's look at their financials. The way you value a company is you estimate the free cash flows into the future, and then you discount those numbers back to today's value. That's what we're doing in this video. And free cash flow is cash flow from operations minus capital expenditures. So they had negative free cash flow in 2022, revenue 770 million. So they didn't hit break even yet, but they did in 2023. Revenue doubled, free cash flow 100 million. It tripled to 300 million, down a little in the trailing 12 months at 280 million. So that's pretty good. They're cash flow positive at an early stage. Net income is the profit or loss on the income statement. It's revenue minus expenses. That was a big negative in 2022, but positive after that. Revenue is the sales for the company, and that went up a lot from 2022 to 2023, up 88%. But then a modest growth into 2024 and the trailing 12 months. A little under 1.9 billion. We estimated 4 years of future free cash flows. We also estimated a terminal value, which all cash flows past year 4, that's 13 billion. We discounted those numbers back to today using the weighted average cost of capital. We get a value of the company of $12 billion. We divide that by 240 million shares. And we get a calculated stock price of $48. They're trading at 108, so they're trading at a 124% premium. It's a sell according to the model. It is a bit hard to value because they're a pretty young company, and I'm expecting a free cash flow to grow 20% for the next few years, but it could grow a lot more than that because crypto is here to stay, and this company seems a lot safer than similar companies. There are 100 companies in the same industry as CRCL, and if they have a number in red, they're worse than the median. If they have a number in blue, they're better. They don't spend much on CapEx. They don't need to. They're a software company, only 42 million. They're pretty much debt-free. They do have a little debt. It rounds to 0.0. Their debt-to-equity ratio is 0.02%. Of course, they do not pay a dividend. Paychex pays the most, 3.3%. They do generate positive free cash flow. Most companies do in this industry. Look at Salesforce, 12.6 billion. It's a lot of free cash flow. This company ranks 22nd in market cap, which is higher than the median. They seem really overvalued according to their price multiples. A 35 price to book, a 93 price to free cash flow. Price to sales is between the median and average, closer to the median. They're trading at 14 times revenue, and they generate 1.9 billion of revenue, which is more than MicroStrategy. And MicroStrategy is more than triple the market cap. This company recently IPO'd on June 5th. If you put $10,000 into this company when they IPO'd, you'd be at $14,000 today, a 40% return, a 2,500% annual return. The reason the annual return is so high is because the time period is so small. To summarize, I have them trading at a 124% premium, ranking 4 out of 10. Would I buy it short term? Possibly 5 out of 10. Long term, I think it should be pretty stable, no pun intended. Ratios 1 out of 10, pretty weak ratios, but there are small companies, so these should improve a lot in the future. Financials don't look so bad, 6 out of 10. Revenue up 145% since 2022, and free cash flow is positive. This company has only been public a little while, like a week, so there's no 10K or 10Q. But when a company does go public, they have to issue an offering circular. And that provides a lot of information, such as financials. So we'll go through this. This document provides investors information on the 34 million shares they just issued. The reason they have to do this is because if they're going to offer stock to the public, they have to provide the public information. So then people can decide if they want to buy the stock or not. They offered 14.8 million shares of Class A common stock and also 19.2 million shares of Class A common stock. The sum of those two is 34 million. We will not receive any proceeds from the sale of Class A common stock by selling stockholders. So of the 34 million, 14.8 million shares are from selling stockholders. So these are insiders, probably the president, CFO, who are selling their shares. But they will receive funds from 19.2 million shares of common stock. And the IPO price was $31. Kathy Wood's ARK investment showed interest in buying $150 million of Class A stock. $34 million times $31 equals a little over $1 billion. Then they have to pay fees to the underwriters, $58 million. The proceeds to this company is $434 million. The proceeds to the stockholders who are selling their stock, $560 million. So that's a really nice payday. Here is a list of the underwriters. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche. There are many underwriters. Here's some info about USDC. There's 60 billion of that asset in circulation. Over 1 trillion of USDC has been minted since its founding, and the total transaction volume in its lifetime is 25 trillion. USDC is available in 185 countries, pretty much the entire world. It can be accessed in 600 million wallets. Let's look at the financials. That's what we like to do in this channel. And here's the first quarter of 25 compared to the first quarter of 24. They also have 21. They also have full year 22, 23, and 24. So their total revenue this quarter is 578 million, which is about half their 2024 revenue. So a lot of the revenue in the first quarter. It's up quite a bit from the first quarter of 2024. And you can see their revenue doubled from 2022 to 2023. Most of their revenue is reserve income. So they earn reserve income on the assets they hold, the USDC. Here's the reserve rate of return. It was only 14 basis points in the first quarter of 2022. Now it's 416 basis points. It does move with the T-bill rate. Rates are really low in 2022. They've gotten a lot higher recently. It was as high as 519 basis points in the fourth quarter of 2023. Let's go back to the income statement. All the expenses directly tied to generating the revenue, 348 million. These are the expenses to hold the reserve coin, the USDC. I wonder if they explain what the expenses are. They talk about it right here. We incur distribution costs to incentivize distributors to use and distribute Circle stablecoins. So their expenses are a function of the amount of USDC distributed by Circle and Coinbase, the amount of USDC held on each party's platform. In August 2023, they entered into a contract with Coinbase where they make payments to Coinbase for its role in the distribution of USDC and growth in its ecosystem. This chart explains reserve income better. They earn interest and dividends on assets held in reserve accounts. Interest income is recognized under the effective interest method, and dividend income from the Circle Reserve Fund. That's recognized on the declaration date. Let's go back to the income statement. Compensation expenses, that's payroll, 75 million. G&A, a lot of that is payroll, 31 million. Depreciation, amortization, 14 million. They have IT infrastructure costs, 7 million. Marketing, 4 million. So they do have positive operating income of 92 million. It was higher in 2023, 269 million compared to 2024. And the reason operating income was worse in 2024 is because distribution and transaction costs was so high, over 1 billion. It was 300 million more when you compare 24 to 23, but revenue only went up 230 million. So their margins went down quite a bit from 23 to 24. Pre-tax income in the first quarter, 90 million. 25 million of taxes, net income 65 million, up from 49 million. They did have a pretty big loss in 2022. It looks like the main reason was their operating expenses. It was higher in 2022 compared to 23 and 24, and revenue was half in 2022. It looks like a big reason was 100 million from these two items, 44 million in merger termination expenses, and they passed through a $57 million impairment. In the following 2 years, they passed through a gain, a digital asset gain. These are non-cash items, so they get reversed out on the statement of cash flows. Their shares outstanding haven't gone up that much, $47 million in 22, $47 million in 23, $54 million in 24. Usually shares outstanding goes up a lot more, especially for newer companies. Let's take a look at the statement of cash flows. In the first quarter, operating cash flow $57 million. Last year was $77 million, so it went down. Even with higher net income, their cash flow went down. There was a $27 million swing in prepaid expenses. Last year it was negative $20 million, now it's negative $48 million. And a $40 million swing in accounts payable. It looks like they added a lot of accounts payable last year, but they only added $6.4 million this year. In the investing section, you could see acquisitions, that's business combinations. They had a cash outflow of $7.4 million. They do talk about one of their acquisitions, Bavo. That was a $142 million acquisition, and they acquired 100% of this company. That company is located in Singapore, and it provides platforms for digital asset custody and blockchain application development. Pretty similar to what they do already. Most of that acquisition was goodwill, $121 million of goodwill, $24 million of intangible assets. But I think a big thing they get is that customer's book of business. They also sold a company. They sold Seed Invest in October 2022. They sold it to a subsidiary of Start Engine Crowdfunding in exchange for 960,000 shares of Start Engine. They also entered into a merger agreement with Concord Acquisition Corp. Concord is a blank check company, like a SPAC. But in February 2022, the merger agreement was terminated, and the company entered into a new transaction agreement with Concord. That's where they got $44 million of merger termination costs. We saw that on the balance sheet earlier. Let's go back to the statement of cash flows. Their biggest cash inflow was $16 billion of deposits of stablecoin. That's money deposited from their customers into this company, and then they hold that stablecoin in their reserve, which is more than double last year, and last year was under $8 billion. Let's look at a company on Simply Wall Street. Its last price, $117, $24 billion market cap. I'm shooting this video on Thursday, 6/12, and the stock has been moving around a lot today. When I first started doing the video, it was like $115 a share. It went down nearly 11 points, down 9% today. It's up a little bit in aftermarket trading. It's a hard stock to pin down. We saw earlier on the prospectus, the IPO price was 31, I believe, but you could not get it for that price. As soon as it started trading, it looks like it was 83. You probably couldn't even get it for 83. If you're a regular retail investor, you might have gotten in at 100. There's going to be a pullback. That happens a lot when stocks start trading. There might be a big run up to like 180, 200, but then there's going to be a huge pullback down to like 30, 40. It takes a while for a stock to settle in. Simply Wall Street's valuation is 65. They say the stock is 79% overvalued. Here's their revenue since 2019, only $9 million. And then it went up to $15 million in 2020, 2021, $85 million. So a pretty big jump from 15 to 85 million. But then in 2022, it went up about 800% to 770 million. 2023, 1.4 billion, 2024, 1.7 billion, and for the trailing 12 months, 1.9 billion. So really nice revenue growth. And this purple line is the free cash flow. Their cash flow positive. Here's their debt since 2019. It was 26 million. The peak was 1 billion, but they did pay off a lot of that debt. And now they're almost debt free, only 37 million of debt. And the blue line is their equity. In 2021, they did have negative equity, which means their liabilities are higher than their assets. But now their equity is positive 1.9 billion. So really healthy debt to equity ratio. And they have a lot of cash on their balance sheet, 61 billion of cash. Most of that cash is a stable coin they're holding for their customers. The CEO's salary was $850K, now it's $900K. Total compensation $12 million, tenure as CEO 12 years. Every year he's CEO, he gets another $1 million. And we saw when they IPO'd, a lot of insiders sold their shares. That was part of the IPO process. So these people became overnight multi-millionaires. Keith Tabert got $2.3 million from his shares, and they only sold them for $29.30, the IPO price. I don't think they wanted to wait for the IPO, because if they waited, they may have been locked in for like a year or two. They were probably given the option, do you want to sell at IPO or wait 1 year after IPO? Nikhil made $8.8 million, Some of these people may be upset because the stock is worth well over $100 and they only sold it for 29. But when the stock comes down to like $10 in a few months, they'll be pretty happy they sold at 29. Half the companies owned by the general public, 20% by VC and private equity firms, 15% by institutions, 10% by insiders, and 7% by private companies. Their biggest shareholder is General Catalyst at almost 11%. That company owns 24 million shares. General Catalyst invests in many companies, usually pre-IPO small companies. They invested in Airbnb, Guild Education, HubSpot, Kayak, Gusto Payroll, a lot of companies. They've done pretty well for themselves. Maybe me and Victor could be as big as this company one day. Jeremy Allaire, the CEO and founder, owns 8% of the company. He's now a multi-billionaire. Imagine being a billionaire. That's a ridiculous amount of money. Being a millionaire isn't a big deal these days, especially if you have 1 million and most of it is tied up into your home. It's not like you can go and spend all the money you want. I think once you get to a high number, like 100 million, then you could start spending on a lot of things. But 1, 2, 3 million, you're not that wealthy. If you don't have much money to your name now, say you only have $10,000 in the bank, or even $100,000 in the bank, I'm sure 2 or 3 million seems like a ton relative to where you are. But once you get there, you're not like that well off where you can just not work ever again and spend as much money as you want. Because say you're 30 years old, in 30, 40 years, $2, $3 million isn't going to be that much. I'm not saying you'd be poor, but you can't live a lavish lifestyle. Let's see who the other holders are. Here's that Nikhil guy. He owns 0.27% of the company stock. A lot of individuals who probably work at the company. Here's this woman, Danita Osling, 925 shares. She's almost worth $100,000. She doesn't actually work at the company. She's just a board member. That's still nice to get $99,000 of stock just for being on the board. But it looks like she sold most of her stock. Her holdings went down 76%, so she did own a lot more. They are adding employees, which is a bullish sign. They had 125 in 2020, now they're up to 900. And their ticker trades on the New York Stock Exchange, Börse München, and Deutsche Börse. So if you want to get a copy of my discounted cash flow model, click on the video in the top right corner.